So I will introduce myself, but before I do that, I will just say that I have been anxious about this presentation for about 2 weeks. I thought I'm not academic enough. I'm not going to come across as sophisticated. Um, and this experience that I'm going to be sharing today is really, it wasn't from that academic place. It was an embodied experience of creating an Earth Gratitude booth at a mining convention. So my intention was to bring gratitude into a really hyper commodifying capitalist space. It wasn't to create something deeply academic. So I've been quite anxious about it. And then what a blessing to sign on and have that truly incredible singing and sharing of the presenter before me. So I'm just really, really grateful for that. So as a result, I am more or less going to scrap everything I had intended. And I'm going to share today from a sort of more grounded, centered place without the fear of meeting some sort of academic expectations. And so to introduce who I am and to sort of situate where I'm coming from in this presentation, I'm hoping that this plays here. My background is within the field of geology, and so I really came to ecopsychology through that lens of geology. And so this image here is of the tectonic plates slowly moving through time. And I'm getting a bit of feedback. I'm not sure if there's a way to change that. And so this recognition of the Earth's story being this old, deep, long story, this deeply humbling, deeply ancient story. And who am I in this framework of the Earth's story? Who am I in comparison to this ancient reality of the Earth? And so the humility of that throughout my bachelor's in geology really started in placing myself in this cycle of time. In my master's, I studied mineralogy. So now we are looking at the very small and the reality or through a scientific lens. And as the presenter prior mentioned, that science is catching up. And really is very beautiful the deeper that you go. And so looking at minerals as these energetic shapes and frameworks that are effectively empty space. So this very long story of Earth's history, and then the emptiness of it as an energetic field, that we're all just vibrating energetically. So who in that context are we? Where do our thoughts come from? Where's our identity emplaced? How can we hold on to ourselves as individuals when in this relational network, this ancient relational network, we are effectively vibrating energetic shapes moving through creation, and not, just to say we're a fragment of time is an understatement. These moments, these blips in this larger story. So what really belongs to us? These were contemplations that I was having. And what can we say about the inner world of the Earth if who we are now are these manifestations of emotions and thoughts and feelings? It's all part of one Earth story, one Earth consciousness. But when it comes to who I myself am on that sort of more, I think of it as terms of identity or egoic scale. Here I am. I'm currently in the traditional territory of the Ecopsychological, who are from the Thompson Okanagan region in British Columbia, Canada. I'm a teaching professor of geography and environmental studies here in BC, largely focused on earth-based relationships. So Kamloops is the image on the top left. On the top right is a picture of myself and my dog, who was the inspiration for a lot of the Earth Gratitude booth design. And in the center is the cat that I currently cohabitate with. So this two-layer of self is really woven throughout this presentation. And I feel a little bit bad on the heels of that really grounded, centering, beautiful experience of the presenter before me, because I'm going to be bringing us into this world of a mining expo, of a sales expo, of a hyper frenetic capitalist earth objectifying space. And trying to open up this doorway to earth consciousness and gratitude in that space. And so I see it as sort of a two-layered experience, where on the one hand, I really try to embody that sort of radical compassion that the earth itself, all of our minds are these pieces of the earth itself, and that includes the deep fragmentation of the capitalist world. That includes, as the I Ching refers to, that the earth in its devotion carries all things good and evil without exception. All aspects of creation are the earth's story. And so if we're thinking in terms of self-earth healing, radical compassion for even those things that we might perceive at an egoic level as being ugly or contradictory or uncomfortable, are also the earth. So on the one hand, was that layer at play, and on the other hand, there was me, myself, and I, Robin Westland, creating this Earth Gratitude booth at a mining expo, and all the messiness that involves. So there's sort of two layers is woven throughout this talk. So I'm going to present where the idea came from, and then the process of its creation, and then the experience. So that's sort of the intention here. And the process started at the Prospector and Developers Association of Canada. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the mining world. Canada is the host of the majority of the mining companies in the world. And every year the PDAC hosts a massive trade show and convention. So there are talks about mining equipment and machinery, and there's a sales, portion, and there's investor conversations. And I had avoided the PDAC despite my geological background, because it also has this reputation of a very objectifying, alcohol-driven, sexual exploitation, sort of all of those hyper masculinized traits in that sort of capitalist world. The PDAC is a celebration of them all. So I've avoided it. However, my PhD was to embark on this journey of self-healing from that deeper layer. And I had made intentions to talk to mining CEOs about their relationships to the earth and so on. And so I made myself go to the PDAC because it would become a point of conversation, sort of a building of rapport going forward in my PhD. But my dog from that slide, a few slides previous, had died just a week before. So I really, at the PDAC, was in shambles emotionally. It was really a deep loss for me. And so to go to the PDAC and be infused in that extreme glamour and glorification of earth objectification and extraction in that really emotionally vulnerable place, the dichotomy was overwhelming. So I found myself just wandering through the aisles, trying to find something to hold on to, some sort of calm space, something to ground, something to help soothe me in that environment. And there wasn't one. The other thing that happened while I was there was the objectification of my own body. So here I was emoting, I'm sure, deep sorrow, and yet I was being leered at or catcalled and followed. So there was this really strong objectification of myself as well, and lots of female objectification at the PDAC while I was there. And so again, with this radical compassion layer, I wanted to create an earth booth at the next PDAC. I wanted there to be a space in this world that is so deeply entangled in the capitalist enterprise that we're all utterly dependent on when it comes to our actual lives are so integrated with the mining industry. So radical compassion for that, the earth going through that process of self-objectification and self-extraction, self sort of whatever that is of the earth's process, trying to find radical compassion for it to offer space for healing in that environment. There was that radical compassion element, and then there was an element of defiance. How dare you objectify the earth and myself? So that was the idea for the Earth Gratitude booth. And I framed it with gratitude because gratitude is hard to fight against. There was a very real possibility this booth would be perceived as an act of protest. And in a mining environment where protest happens a lot, trying to minimize that potential was really important. So gratitude as this process of the inside and the outside interacting. Gratitude as a process of recognizing a lack of entitlement, of gift giving, seemed like an approach that might work best for this potential booth. And so I pitched the booth to the mining organization. I wanted it to be supported by the mining organization for a number of reasons, mostly because I wanted to, again, reduce that potential of being perceived as an act of protest as opposed to a gift to the people and to the earth at the convention. The PDAC declined. They did invite me to Toronto to pitch the idea, but they did decline. And so I pitched it to the second largest mining organization in Canada, the Canadian Institute of Mining, Metallurgy and Petroleum. The PDAC gets about 25,000 convention goers a year, and the CIM gets about 5,000. So still a large convention, but substantially smaller. And incredibly, the CIM agreed to take a chance on this Earth Gratitude booth, and they donated the space and the furnishings to the booth, which would have cost me upwards of $11,000 Canadian to make it happen otherwise, which wouldn't have been feasible. So it was really, for multiple reasons, one of them being practical. I really needed it to be welcome at the convention and also supported by them energetically and also financially. So to give you an idea, this is, you can't really see it, I'm sure, on your slides, but from the CIM pamphlet, it refers to 475 exhibiting companies featuring the latest in mining equipment, solutions, and innovations. This was a trade show. This was a place selling lubricants and safety gear and forklifts, and there were business and meeting pods. So this was a sales event. This was a money-making business sales event. And then there in the floor plan circled the Earth Gratitude booth, which they had named a lounge, which I knew was a red flag that now that people were going to perceive it as just a place to hang out as opposed to a place of offering. But that's a longer story. I fear I'm going to run out of time. So I viewed it as So the feminist element comes in from embodiment. So, the mind body split, the mind earth split, the ecopsychology considers as an access to healing of the mind. A doorway for that is connecting to the body. And so I thought, how am I going to, in this place, connect people with their bodies when the world around them will be designed to keep everybody in a frenetic space of business and networking. How do I calm people down sufficiently to actually engage with this Earth Gratitude booth in a meaningful way? And so I created the booth infused with the energy of Wolf Island, which is the largest of the 1,000 islands between Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River. And I created an idea for a community art creation, community art creation became part of that vision, sort of moving through me. This stone circle here, I created again when my dog had passed away, and then it became the inspiration for the community art creation, where participants would pick up a stone and think of something they were grateful for, and then add it to the art creation. And then I would then bring the stones back to the beach where I'd gotten them at the end to release their gratitude into the waves. So this was the involving people in an embodied way, a creative way with gratitude in the Earth Gratitude booth. With the help of my PhD supervisor and her husband, we created a sound story. So the story of the stones as they left the water and moved their way onto the shore and then further off into the marsh. So there, we took recordings and then I mixed them into a 5-minute loop that told the story of the stones because the stones were going to be coming from the beach with me to Montreal to sit there with me on display in this trade show. And so to really honor them for agreeing to come and to honor their experience. So I created this soundscape that then would be available to listen to at the convention as well as part of the embodiment and emplacement of the booth. I think that I want to be respectful of the organizers here. So I'm going to just really stress that it was so fundamentally important that this booth be perceived of as inclusive and not as for or against something. And that was actually really hard to do because the mining industry elicits so much animosity, understandably, that it's quite an insular environment. And so to not rub it the wrong way while also honoring the local Indigenous peoples, honoring the stones, honoring the earth, allowing for earth gratitude, to create materials that didn't rub anyone in a way that would cause harm was really actually challenging. So I met with a lot of people to try to help me script the pamphlets that ended up being available at the booth. And anything that seemed to cause anxiety or trigger people, I would scrap from the pamphlet. So I ended up having this neutral but still honest about the intentions of the booth batch of materials. I was told by the local Indigenous resident elder at Queen's, where I went to university, to only bring the stones that were willing to go. And so that was a process of trusting my intuition and laying tobacco and leaving the stones that wanted to stay on the beach where they lay. So it was all, again, part of this experience of creating the booth. And then off we went. So this is my little cart full of limestones in Montreal. And when I entered the trade show, it was when it first hit me how deeply, deeply different my booth was going to be. I really debated leaving with the the brochures and the loudness and their lack of windows. It was so extreme, and such sensory overload, and so deeply male, the mining industry. And that's from that gendered perspective. The mining industry is upwards of 90% a male dominated industry, and it's that it's all of those sort of Western notions of what a business person should be, and how one should engage with the world, really to the extreme. And then there I had me with my stones, and the amount of fear that I felt in that moment was overwhelming. But the stones had agreed to come, and so I rallied my best self, or tried to rally my best self. And I set up my little booth. And the other thing that was going to be so challenging was I didn't know what to expect, but I knew that I needed to, for the sake of the earth and the sake of the people at the convention, I needed to be grounded and centered and serene and calm and peaceful no matter what happened. Because if I got frazzled or upset or triggered or felt hopeless at any time, that would ripple through the booth, and that would change the experience of everybody that would be passing by. That would limit the potential for people to stay to engage with me if I was sitting there in a state of anxiety. No matter what happened, I had to be grounded. And that was deeply exhausting. I had intended to be, or my intention was to be passive, not to call people out to come to the booth, but just to hold space for them. And there were a number of very challenging moments. So this quote here, I had a little notebook and I would write down things but verbatim as they, if it was, anyway, it was participant observation. So I was sitting there in the booth in my female form, and there was a roving band of young men, and one of them called out, this one is a beast, and stood there staring at me. And in that moment, I was being, like the earth, objectified, like the earth, considered lesser than, unclean, associated with the animal world, all of those gendered notions, in that one statement. And it was an environment that allowed those types of engagements to happen. And that is just one of the more extreme, but one of multiple quite difficult moments that took place at the convention. And to find that radical compassion, that person, that young man in that moment, as a fragment of the earth's self, the fragment of the earth's process, the earth's own disconnect, to have compassion in that moment and to continue to hold space. I knew that's what I had to do, but it drained me to my core. There's no question about it. But it was for the earth's sake. I needed to stay balanced and calm and not give in to an egoic response of hurt or anger or defensiveness or self-protection. I needed to continue to stay open for others that would walk by and might want to engage. It couldn't be about me. It had to be about the stones and the earth. Again, I worry about time. I think I made this way too long, so I'm very sorry about that. But that sort of shallower layer, in the analysis that took place later, I viewed it through an ecofeminism lens, the hyper objectification of the female body, and the need to re-enter the body as part of the earth's healing, as part of the rebalancing of those sort of fragmented male-female, that false dualistic construct that dominates the West. There were also many beautiful, beautiful moments. There were, and they far outnumbered the harder moments. I had people coming to sit with me. This quote here, an Indigenous business developer came and sat with me and said that he took off his business hat and put on his healer hat, and wanted me to know that the stones were there to support me just as much as I was there to support them. Um, and it was just one example of people who came and sat and listened and teared up and shared and held the stones and rubbed the stones and took part in the community art creation and allowed for a moment. And this is, you know, where I tried to vision that ecopsychological view. If we're all little pieces of the Earth's mind, then in that convention, all of these frenetic Earth fragments of mind zipping around, you know, on their cell phones and meeting in the business pods. And yet those people that stopped, I sort of vision it like a moment of meditative calm, that they had a moment of meditative calm in the frenetic space that they were in, sort of an emergence, a shift in perception just for a moment when they came into that booth and took part in the community art creation or sat with me, that it caused in this really divisive environment a moment of connection. And in the end, 64 stones of gratitude were laid. So this is the image of the stones there on the floor. And that was an embodied experience. People had to pick up the stones and then move with their bodies into the space, think about something they were grateful for, lay the stone. So that took so much bravery because they were in this environment as I was, and so to remove themselves sufficiently to pick up a stone and think of gratitude and to offer the stone, knowing it would be brought back to the waters. It again, it showed that was beautiful to witness, and so this was some people listening as well to the listening post. So I think I've sort of talked about ecopsychology throughout. At the very last night, so I was staying at an Airbnb across from the convention center, and I had just spent 3 days embedded in that environment and pouring myself into that booth space, pouring myself out there and holding myself open for glimmers of connection, for the opportunity to offer gratitude. I was just depleted. And then there was a sound of fireworks, and I sort of, you know, got up, and it felt this sort of strange watery sensation, and I felt this sort of stony limestone energy, and looked out my window, and there's fireworks, and then I checked the CIM pamphlet, and it was a gala going on inside where people were cheering to a week filled with learning, knowledge exchange, networking, business, and most importantly, success. This extreme, you know, glorification of business and mining and that capitalist world. It was one of the strangest moments of my sort of experience was that I was looking out the window and recognizing how far away the Earth Gratitude booth was from the rest of the convention energy. I really was quite, I felt hopeless after the convention. I think that I had hoped for some sort of, you know, naively, I'd hoped for an easier time of it. I'd hoped for, you know, this really radical experience to be met with more openness, you know, and resurgence of earth awareness, than it had. Instead, it was really trying to hold myself and the booth safe, that really stuck with me. And so when I was returning the stones, I really felt sad, just really sad at how hard it had been. But I started to ponder the earth again at that deeper layer, and reminded myself that this Earth Gratitude booth was undoubtedly the first honoring of the earth that had ever taken place in a mining convention. And it wasn't just there, it had been actually supported by that organization. So from a sort of Earth's development perspective, that's huge. It was a gift to be able to hold the space for it. And it was a signal, I hope, of some sort of larger cosmic shift happening at the level of mind, even in that deeply disconnected and self-objectifying environment. And so when I released the stones back into the water, I brought myself into that place of honoring as I did so. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry. I tried so hard to keep it shorter.
No, it was beautiful, Robin. Thank you so much for sharing. We are at time, but Judy, do we have a moment for some questions for either the audience or online, if anybody has anything? I would just like to say I thought it was beautiful, and as an indigenous practitioner and my ancestry being Native American, the honoring of the stones and then the stone people, the teachings that they have to give is a beautiful, beautiful teaching. And oh, I'm gonna cry. It was just very beautiful the way you honored it. And I hope that if you were able to do this again, you go in with more strength from the stone people and listen to the wisdom that they have to give. They give us such beautiful strength, and it's just so powerful. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Robin. I'm just in awe of your bravery. I'm really in awe of your bravery. I think that like the action that you took and the way that you shared it really illustrates what many of our presenters were talking about today. We've talked about, I mean, in my presentation, I talked about holding space for folks who are on the opposite side of the ecological spectrum than we are, and bringing a space, finding a way to collaborate, to dialogue with them. And other presentations spoke about nature connection, about kind of unlearning our enculturated captivity. I think that the action that you took is a concrete action that is so powerful. And the bravery that you showed in stepping into that space with something that could be interpreted as so subversive just deeply impressed and inspired me. I don't think I would have the courage to do it. So I just wanted to thank you for that, for sharing that.
Thank you for saying that. I can tell you right now that I don't have the courage to ever do it again. I think if I knew how hard it was going to be, I wouldn't have done it to begin with. So I just sort of wung it. But
especially alone, maybe with a buddy next time.
Yeah, maybe with a buddy. Yeah, maybe with a buddy. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions before we move to the panel?
Yes, I've got there's one that's thank you, Robin, for your courage and commitment in bringing the gratitude booth to a context where it was so unusual. And thank you for your courage to share your experience with us. It is encouraging for me to step outside of the norms and bring the creative gifts I have to offer. And then another one, just thank you, Robin. Important, brave booth and powerful presentation. Stacy from Saskatchewan.
A fellow Canadian.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was quite nervous because I worried it wasn't going to be academic. So, but it's an audience that is okay with that, it seems. So that's good.
Thank you. Thanks, Robin. So I think, Sarah, we're moving right into the panel, right? Yeah. So this is super, oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Robin.